accepting that the people around us and the people that raised us are human beings that have their own stories before us and during us is a doozy. And that because we get wrapped up in like the impact that it had on us. And I don't know, it's hard to have some sort of empathy sometimes for people that have harmed us. But I think it does something for us when we have an understanding that maybe shit was done to them too, or they were raised a certain way, or they were dealing with their own shit that, again, maybe had nothing to do with us, but had some sort of impact on us.
You know,
And I was gonna just say we can easily get caught up. We mentioned this earlier. We can easily get caught up on like, oh, like the things that healing depend on, and that can very much be one of them. Like, not until I have healed the relationship with my mom or gotten acceptance from my dad or get the love from my grandma that I always wanted, then I will be healed. And it's like, that's a whole other human being you're dealing with there. They are not just your grandma. They are not just your dad, your mom, your sister, your brother. They are a person. I'm sorry.
ooh, and you're most likely not gonna get that closure from that. Ooh.
It's the face.
Hmm.
Oh.
You know, I to take it a step further, where's my notebook? I got to start writing these points down because they're gonna escape me. Because I'm like, there's 5 things I want to say in response, and then I forget all 5 of them. Um, I want to take it a step further and like 2 different points. Of course, I forgot the second point, but I think I'll get there by saying the first point. So one, um, I think in my particular upbringing, both of my parents are earth signs. And I think that was like my first problem in life. And so both of my parents have very big personalities. So I've actually, for me, I feel like I've always seen them as these personalities
Yeah.
more than even like my parents. So as
Mm.
I like, so like personally, I feel like as got to the second point, see, got to go through the first one to get to the second one. I'm not there yet. I'm still in the first one, but I think I've had an understanding, but what I'm learning is that as I continue to age and be inquisitive and accept and try to seek to understand, I
Hmm.
have a fuller picture.
Right.
Because I
Right.
think I've always saw them as like their own human beings, but now it's like, oh, you're actually a three-dimensional and not just the performance that you put on. And I mean that both in the literal sense and that both of my parents were performers and the performance that we all do to sort of protect ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
and that for me has been, maybe that's also answering your question again of how do you sort of accept that? It's like, well, I can see the change in myself over the last couple of years, and this is the right direction that I want to go in.
Hmm.
So I feel like being able to see your parents, like that's the first point. And the second part about that is it's the risk we take when we love people. And it doesn't mean that we always
Hmm.
have to have active love, right? Like,
Hmm.
but that's so much in life. Most people we encounter are not going to like us, not going to love us just because they're in their own lives. And you know, there's I don't know how many people are on this planet. I should have looked that up before like coming, but there's like billions of people on this planet. And so there are billions of lives that other people can be interacting with. And like you were saying earlier, not to take it personally, it's recognizing that not to take it personally. And for me, acceptance comes with taking the risk of trying to find these things out,
Mm.
trying to shape my reality. And you and I were chatting about this earlier today, actually, and just I think some people are more inclined, but I think it can definitely be taught. I think some people are more naturally inclined, but I think I'm a person who is very active to not just come in the room and have the room conform around me, but try to change the space that I am in. I
Hmm.
don't I don't want to change myself. I want the space to change.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I like similar in this concept of accountability, it's not going to miraculously happen because I want it to. And the emotional spinning of like, well, it has to, or if I just get this closure from this ex, or if I just get my mother to say she loves me, or if I just try to connect with my kid one more time, and
Yeah.
that like literally just may never happen. But there
Mm-mm.
are other realities that can spur from that where you get to be happy and live a life. And it's, don't just go damaging the relationships and saying like, oh, I'm healed, I'm cutting off every, that's also another thing. Maybe that's for a private conversation, but the cutting everybody off.
As somebody
Um,
that has burned many bridges, I love that approach.
oh yes, and this is
I
why
am a
we're
fan.
burning the bridge and wondering why people don't visit.
It's my bridge. No, I ain't even wondering. I know they can't cross the bridge that has now been burnt down.
I'm as I in my Shrek t-shirt, like yes, I get it. Like get out of my swamp.
It's for extreme and nuanced reasons though. It's situations where for me there's like consistent abuse. There's no hope for like change the behavior. There has been communicated that there will be no changed behavior and even leaving like maybe a couple of planks of wood left that connect to each other and being like, "Hey man, if you want to change, these planks are right there. But if you don't, the lighter is on my side." So
And that is
I don't think we burn enough bridges. Anyways,
no, no, not anyways, but that's appropriate. That's exactly burning a bridge because someone abused you. Yes. Sorry,
yeah.
that was loud. Please lower that in
No,
post
that was
production.
great volume for that. Yes.
Like
You
burn the
explained.
bridge. Yes, the screen, the transcription. It's yes, when someone is repeatedly abusing you, burn the bridge. And it's also recognizing when someone calls you out on your, when someone calls you in, that is not abuse.
Facts. Facts. Again, the running away from the feelings of discomfort and the narrative of like, oh no, I must be a bad person because somebody is saying I did something wrong, I harmed them in some way, and it's like, no, 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 no. If somebody is bringing this to your attention, especially somebody that you love, care about, are a friend with, it is being done because they want repair with you. They want some reconciliation, some sort of changed behavior. That's a good thing. That means they have hope. They have hope in you. Um, yeah, don't run away from that, friends. It's gonna be okay.
And we have all been there like at every side on this like cube. We have been every person, you know?
Correct. I have in being held accountable. I'm like, you don't know what I'm going through. That that good old script. You don't understand. You don't know what I was saying. That wasn't my intention. Wow. Oh, Zulynette. Yeah.
Ooh, let's give our younger selves a hug.
I hope you're hugging yourself at home. Don't do this while you're driving.
No, no. Keep your eyes on the road.
Thank you. What you had said about what you were saying about parents. Um, I just wanted to say like for me, it was the realization that my parents, and there's so many of them, that my parents are not just characters in my life. They are, and that it sort of does, not saying that you have to keep awful people in your life, but it does a disservice. I think it does a disservice to, I'm speaking specifically about parents, but it does a disservice to them when I cut them off from the network of their own life, which is the aunts, the cousins, my siblings, their parents' parents, who they may have had a relationship with that I don't have. Like, um, I don't know, it's really it, like really minimizes somebody's humanity. And and I spent a long time being angry at parents because you are my parent and this is what a parent is supposed to be and you're not being that and I don't like that for me. And it was and so it was like, okay, well, in a healing journey, how am I ever gonna, what do I do with that information then? If they are just this one-dimensional character in my life and they're not living up to the expectations that I have put on them, that society has put on them, that I have learned to put on them, now what do we do? And my initial approach to that and like my defensiveness in my younger years was definitely to cut everybody off, including people that were trying to hold me accountable. Um, and then eventually I learned that good old word nuance and learned that that wasn't the way that you can have, I don't want to say challenging relationships, but you can have relationships with people that you think are challenging to you in a way that is not harmful to you. With things like good old boundaries. We love boundaries. And I will say this because often in the conversations around boundaries, even when I'm talking about boundaries, it doesn't come up enough. Sometimes you can't have boundaries and still have to have a relationship with somebody. And I think that needs to be named that that happens. So, mhm.
This is hitting very close to home, but I really appreciate this conversation. I'm still learning about boundaries. I feel like sometimes I joke that, well, it's not a joke. Like you, I have an MSW, but I'm a macro social worker, so I did not go the clinical route. And so there are just things that I did not pick up in grad school. I'm like, how do you go through like a social work degree and be like boundaries? Ugh,
I
ugh.
I I also went the macro route. I also did not learn about one-on-one boundaries with people. That came about 3 years ago. I only got it like 3 years ago. The MSW is like 11 years old. So, you know,
Spider-Man meme. Like, no, but seriously, and I think isn't that what also I think this also firmly belongs in this conversation because when we have one-dimensional views, like just because you're like just because you see, someone in your life whom you think like, oh my gosh, Kenyatta's a social worker, like I am a macro social worker. Like, no, I actually don't know what like I know the word. I can use it in a sentence. In practice, or at least that was me 2 years ago. I feel like it was
mhm,
really 2022 that I was really intentional about learning what boundaries are. And I did not know them back then when I was younger, and that is okay. But I have a responsibility to learn them now and practice them deeper. And it's not to say that even if I didn't have a word for it, I didn't understand what that was. It's just, trying to get closer to all all my homies at least. We are all working towards living more in line with our values every single day.
yeah,
So even if we didn't have the language for it, we may have been doing that, and now we can just do it even better with some supports, language to center, and a language to name our experience, and the ability to try it with people who are willing to try it with us.
yeah, yeah. And in the same way that you mentioned earlier that some folks may not know what accountability even means or what it looks like, I don't think we are also, I don't think folks no, I don't think the general population knows what boundaries are and how it is that you uphold them. I think people hear boundaries and go to don't do this to me or don't talk to me like that as examples. But really it is again a sort of uncomfortable it's an uncomfortable sort of process where you name how you would like to be treated by somebody else. You give them a consequence if they treat you a different way than that. And then, and this is the rough one, you follow through with that consequence. So, hey, when you get upset, you start yelling. It makes me uncomfortable. It makes me feel scared. I the next time you start yelling at me, I will be leaving and will not come back until you can have a lower volumed conversation with me so that I can feel safe. And people instead will just be like, don't fucking yell at me. That's my boundary. It's like, no, that's not a boundary. But you tried, and I like that you got close to step one. So at
Yeah.
home, just so you know, write that down. That's how you do the boundary thing. And again, with nuance.
Yeah, I definitely was that person who was shouting a rule at someone. You can't talk to me like this, or
That's the word rule.
you,
Hmm.
yeah, or I hate when you do X, Y, and Z. And it's something I've been like dealing with a lot with family. Like I hate when y'all do X, Y, and Z. And finally I realized like, oh girl, you like, and I say girl, and I say girl, I started laughing uncontrollably thinking about Zoolander, one of my favorite movies, where he has a line where he's like, and I say brother like the way black people say brother. And I'm like, I'm saying girl in the way, but I can say that like actually as a black person and not white as Ben Stiller. But anyway, but boundaries, not rules. I learned to say to myself, oh girl, you don't actually have to go to Christmas, and that can be the thing. Actually, no, I'm just not going to go to that. Because why? Because
The same
I
time.
don't
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I don't want to go to that, period. And then that's the thing. And then if folks want to get into it, it's like, okay, well, I don't want to go to Christmas because I get made to feel uncomfortable in these three ways. And oh, so what you're telling me I can't do that? No, I'm actually telling you you can. I'm just saying I won't be there.
Right. Here's how I'm going to be responsible for me. Here's how I'm going to take care of me. You do you. That's where the acceptance part comes in. Sure, listen, if that's you, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to say, that's how you want to act, that go for it. That doesn't necessarily mean I have to now put up with it, deal with it, love it, be part of it, act like nothing's wrong with it. Yeah. You don't have to go to listen, the holidays are coming. You don't have to go. For anybody who needs to hear, you don't have to go.
And there is the nuance of what do you do when it's someone that you can't really, that you have to navigate that. And I'll just be
Hmm.
very very blunt. And maybe when I share this, it's to show all people, but not this person. But that's what I'm dealing with in many ways with my mother. I am
Mm-hmm.
my mother's only child, and my mother was a single parent. So for her, I am the person, and that's a lot of pressure on a single individual. And I know at this point in my life, when this is, as we're filming this, I, a relationship where no contact, where there is no contact is not an option, but there
Hmm.
has to be significantly different boundaries. So I am actively navigating, where are
Yeah.
the ways that I can push? Where are the ways that I just realize I cannot? And it is a privilege to be able to at least push. And it is just a complicated space to be in. Like you said, that it is hard to talk about, let alone provide solutions. And the only trial and error scientific method. This worked this the day, it did not work on Thursday. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
try again on Monday, or I'll switch my approach. I'll figure out something else. I have to come up with new hypotheses and test them all out and see what works.
Yeah. Oh, moms. Yes. Hmm. That was definitely the relationship that for me was the hardest to even attempt a boundary with because it's mom. You're like my life. You are my everything. You took care of me, and I am therefore indebted to you forever, is what I was taught. And uh I am no contact with one of my siblings because they are a super abusive person. Um and have decided that they don't want to change. I have heard through the grapevine in the family. And so my mom would do this thing sometimes where she would be on call or a FaceTime uh with this sibling and would then like try to get me on the phone call or something like that. And it got to the point where, and I had already attempted the things that I knew, the things that I learned in the family, which was like, I would just like hang up the call. I would hang up the call. I would yell. I would argue. I would do all those things. And then eventually it was like, oh, I don't have to like actually engage in this way. What I can do is, hey, which is what ended up happening, very calmly, as calmly as I can muster. Because man, if somebody can get under my skin, it's um, bruh. So what I did was I said, listen, I understand you want to continue to have a relationship with this sibling. That's fine. You're their parent. Cool. I guess. I don't want to, and you're gonna have to respect that because if not, it's gonna impact my relationship with you. And I don't want it to. But if you keep pushing this, it makes me uncomfortable. It makes me angry. It makes me feel like you don't respect me. If this continues, I am going to distance myself from you because I didn't want to cut her off. I still don't want to cut her off. Shout out to her for not being cut off. um, but it was like, if it comes down to it, I need you to know I'm going to protect my peace. I hope you understand that. And that if this keeps being pushed on me, I will distance myself from you. I will talk to you less. I will come by less. I will, whatever the case is, but like I will retract from you. Um, and thank goodness, it quickly changed after that. But all my methods before that, which is like it was it was a bunch of things that were already really familiar in my like yelling is nothing. Arguing is nothing. It's a Tuesday. Like so what? You screamed at each other. We're gonna pick up tomorrow like nothing happened. Because that's what we do. Um, so I had to do something that not only did it make me uncomfortable to set boundaries, but it also made me uncomfortable to do it in like a very calm manner with my parent because it's not our usual MO.
Kudos to you
um
for
yeah.
trying.
Oh, thanks. I'm out of breath just thinking about it.
It's the moves away from the mic to take a
Right.
breath, to laugh.
Mm.
I also I have a quote that I actually wanted to share because I'm full
Oh,
of
yes, please.
quotes. It's from Girl, Woman, Other, which is a book by Bernadine Evaristo. She's an English author. And the context is this book, or this chapter in the book, is written by a 19-year-old who is her mother's only child. And they have a very unique family dynamic where the young person, Yaz, is has several different family structure and godparents. I think they have like a total of like 13. And this book is a radically transformational, but the context is Yaz's mother is a playwright. It is the evening of her opening play, and Yaz is the one that has to deal with everything that's going to happen following the play. It's significant for her
Mm.
mother and her mother's career. And she says, guess who'll have to be on the end of the phone to pick up the pieces? She's mom's emotional caretaker, always has been, always will be. It's the burden of being an only child, especially a girl who will naturally be more caring.
Mm. Mm. Okay. Hmm.
I picked myself up off the floor and like, when did I take this picture? March 20th, 2024. And it's like, oh yeah, boundaries have got to be set.
Yeah. Because in a beautiful way, it's giving the other person a chance when you're setting a boundary too. You're giving them an opportunity to love you the way you want to be loved, cared for the way you want to be cared for. And sometimes they don't know. Sometimes they don't know that it's a boundary. Sometimes they don't know that there's something bothering you or that it bothers you that much or that you need something as much as you do until you communicate it. And so a boundary sometimes I think we look at it as a negative or like something that somebody is doing wrong, but really it's like an opportunity for somebody to rise to the occasion to remain in your life and to remain in your life in a positive way that works for you.
Firmly believe.
Yeah. My last question, I mean, unless we come up with more questions, which is totally fine, but if you don't mind sharing with the class, what are you healing through now?
I'm making a face for folks who are listening to this podcast because it's like, how is this the last question? You're gonna ask me, what am I healing through now?
I don't know, man. This
Everything.
is how I do this podcast. I just drop bombs left and right, like these questions. I'm sorry.
Everything. I familial relationships, job transitions. I got married last year, so I'm life is just so different and new and scary. It's whoa. I'm just trying to find myself in 30s, trying to create myself. I think I'm it's less about the finding, more about the creating. Incubus has a their album is called Make Yourself. I think it's their sophomore album, maybe their third album, but uh and they have a song, the titular song, Make Yourself. So it's yeah, why not try to make myself? Healing through
I
all that
love that.
stuff.
You mentioned marriage, which made me think of love, which made me think of how think thinking of the word uncomfortable, like how hmm, I don't think we talk enough about how I'm trying to find the way to phrase this. How hard healing is when you are in a safer or more healed place. Is that's a rough draft. That's a rough
Mm.
draft. Don't directly quote me. But it's something along the lines of like when you are in a safer place, when you are in a more loving place, when you are being loved well, it's almost like it makes harm that has been done to you even more clear, which then brings up like more shit for you to work
Oh
through.
my gosh.
I think
Yes.
I think I said it in a recent podcast episode, probably with Karime recent in season one, with Karime, which was like it was something along the lines of like I'm so triggered in this healthy, happy relationship. Yeah, I'm doing the healing wrong again. Except I'm
You
not.
have
Mm.
it's it you I think you said it so spot on. It makes things so much more apparent.
Mm.
It you can't there's no scapegoat. There's no keeping busy because you're locked in.
Yeah,
So if you're locked in and it's like I see you, you see me, but that means you see
please don't
it's like
perceive me.
both terrifying and beautiful.
Mm.
That will be for that'll be for the next one.
I think you summed it up pretty much that healing is terrifying and beautiful. That might be the name of this episode. Healing, both
Oh,
terrifying and beautiful.
one of my sorry for all the not sorry all the references, but one of my favorite albums is by God is an Astronaut. They're an instrumental band. I can't remember where they're from. It might be there's some sort of European, but they have an album called All is Violent, All is Bright. And it is it's to me it is I love that phrase because it is being seen, being perceived, being loved is terrifying and beautiful. Call it terrifyingly beautiful if you must.
Mhm.
All is violent, all is bright. And violent doesn't always have to be like gore bashing your head in, but violent could just be it took a lot of violence to get this soft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Mm. Indeed. You're gonna leave it there? I'm happy to leave it there. Friend, thanks for being on the podcast. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you for inviting me and for the space.